first and foremost is bucketed strategies. And when I say that is, we may have a cash bucket, we may have a conservative bucket, we may have a growth bucket. Now, of course, from a risk standpoint, all those buckets are put into one portfolio and we evaluate the portfolio risk as a whole. But if we can segment certain portions of your portfolio towards risk mitigated strategies and risky strategies, it usually yields great results, as we've seen for hundreds of people in the past.
Today's episode is brought to you by Security Financial Management.
Welcome back to the Best Advice Podcast, guys. I'm your host, Rob Lavalio. Here as always, I'm going to say here as always again. I've been not saying here as always because we've had a lot of advisors coming in and out.
Sure.
But we're on another roll, baby.
Yeah.
Here as always with Mr. CFP himself, Mr. Trevor Bell, a.k.a. The Trek. What's up, baby?
Good to see you, my man.
Thank you for being here. Trevor actually has paid time off today, but you know, when it rains, it pours, and we're here to keep it going.
You gotta capitalize on momentum, man. And these podcasts has been rolling, so
gotta capitalize on momentum.
Yep.
It's what did we talk about last episode? Like the heat check.
The heat check.
Kind of like a heat check.
Yeah,
and keep
absolutely.
it going, baby.
Yeah. Why would I stop?
Let it rain! Rain dance!
You know, no reason
I
to.
love it. Keep it hot. Which leads us to the question of the day. Today's question comes from Cam from Houston, Texas. Cam, what you got for us?
Is the danger that poor investment returns in the early years of retirement a real threat for someone who is approaching retirement?
Thank you, Cam. What you're referring to here is sequence of return risk. It is actually a pretty big deal. I'm going to say big deal, but it needs to be accounted for. I don't think a lot of people know about it.
People don't talk about it a lot.
What exactly is it?
Well, so everybody always gets caught up in like, what's my average annual return, right? And of course that's important, right? Return and how your portfolio is growing and wealth is building is a critical component to what we do. However, how does it look on a timeline, right? So
for sure.
When you're saving and still working, you've got, time to add to your account. The bad years don't hurt as much, right? Those 20% corrections that we're gonna inherently have in the market eventually is really just a buying opportunity when you still are working and have income coming in.
It's like a discount.
Yes,
when you're working.
I like to call it buying off the clearance rack.
Oh, I love that.
I love because it is. I mean, whereas when you're retired and you're taking distributions, taking money out, you're not adding to the account, those down years can hurt pretty quickly because you're essentially locking in your losses, right?
Wow.
The market could be down 10%. You still need your income stream. You've got to be able to live off of it. And, in some instances for actually a lot of Americans, a lot of retirees. And so if the market's going down in those first 2-3 years that you're taking out of the portfolio, it could be really harmful to the portfolio. So we'll go into the actual numbers of it. But it is a fascinating thing to analyze.
So essentially what you're saying is if, say there's two people, right? They start with the same investment, right? They have the exact same returns over the same years.
Exact same portfolio, same return.
And that we're drawing the same amount each year.
Right.
What you're saying is if one of these two retired in a year that the market went down versus one of the years where the other person retired where the market just was average, that the person who retired in a bad year had that bad luck, and that sequence of return risk with that bad luck is significantly going to affect its long-term growth.
Yeah,
is that kind of what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm a big example guy. I'm a big visual learner.
Absolutely.
Or like, can you give me some real numbers or a real scenario between two people?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we've got scenario A, or I'll call it retiree A, and we've got retiree B. They both earn the same average annual return. They both withdrew the same amount, let's call $50,000 on the withdrawal amount. Yeah. And then they both started with $1 million. Okay. All right. So big picture, same return, $1 million portfolio, withdrawing $50,000 a year.
Give me a quick example of like retiree A, retiree B, a situation where they're doing the exact same thing and one just happened to retire in a bad year.
Sure.
Versus the other one.
So let's just take that exact same example of the retiree A versus retiree B. They're taking out the exact same amount. However, one retires in a bad time in the market, that's retiree A.
Okay.
One retires in a good time in the market, retiree B.
Okay.
So retiree A in the first 3 years, it's a minus 15% drop, minus 10% drop, and minus 5% drop over the first 3 years of taking distributions. However, the next couple of years, let's just say averages an 8% return on the actual
An
account.
average, a normal, statistically normal conservative year in the market.
Correct. Yeah. So, and in this instance, retiree A runs out of money in year 21 of taking their income stream.
Wow.
Right.
Okay,
So
yeah.
they still have, an adequate income for a good amount of time, but let's just hypothetically say that individual retired at 60.
Yeah.
Well, 21 years gets them to the age of 81, and we know the life expectancy would push you a lot more beyond that.
Especially nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that could be a worrisome.
An issue. Yeah.
Absolutely. And now let's compare that retiree B, who is taking out money in good years in the market. Let's flip it on its head and say year 1 is a 15% return, year 2 is a 10% return, and then year 3 is a 5% return, right? Again, all positive, not negative, the exact opposite of scenario A or client A. That same account average, 8% average return. Again, we're comparing apples to apples here and saying the exact same return and exact same portfolio. In that instance, retiree B still actually has over $500,000 left, not in year 21, but in year 30.
Holy heck.
Yeah.
That is a huge difference.
Right. So just because of, again, that's 3 years we're talking about. We're not even discussing
So we're
5
saying-
to 7
okay,
years
so
of a
same,
portfolio.
we're the same age, right?
Right.
I'm retiree A, right? You're retiree B. We both just retired at the same time.
Sure.
When I retired, right, the market went down -15 the first year, down -10, and then down -5. That's the first 3 years.
Right.
As I retire, right? Your market went up 15, up 10, up 5 the first 3 years.
Correct.
And then the rest of those 20 years, everything's the same.
Yeah. Yeah. We average the exact same return,
And we're pulling out the same amount of money every
same
year.
amount of money.
You're telling me my money is going to die in 21 years and yours is going to still have $500,000 left at
Year 30.
year 30. And
9
that's
years later.
If we both had $1 million, right?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that, and that's wildly powerful.
Yeah.
Because what happens, Rob, is let's just say we'll run with the scenario of you being retiree A.
I don't like being retiree.
Yeah, no, you want to be a retiree B. So those first 3 years, you're taking out 50K for income. I'm taking out 50K in income, and you're essentially locking in your losses, right? Whereas I am not locking in my losses. The market's going up. In fact, the market's exceeding the percentage at which I'm taking out.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see a dent in the portfolio, so to speak.
Okay.
Whereas
sense, yeah.
when the market's down, again, in those instances, 15, 10, 5% first 3 years, you're taking out money and locking in, hey, I lost 15%, lost 10%, lost 5%, and even more than that, really, because again, you're taking out $50,000
Yeah.
on $1 million portfolio. That's
yes.
5%.
Yes. So it makes a lot more sense when you said earlier that it's not the average return that your money gets that could kill a retirement. It's the timing of it all, right?
Right.
And that's scary listening to that whole situation. I mean, that's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, especially for those getting ready to retire.
Yeah, I'd be like freaking out.
Yeah,
I was like, do I
yeah.
want to retire? Do I not want to retire?
Right.
What do, as professionals, like how do you avoid that, or how do you set them up to succeed in the best situation?
Sure. Yeah. So something that we particularly here at SFM specialize in is really just a couple different things. First and foremost is bucketed strategies. And when I say that is we may have a cash bucket, we may have a conservative bucket, we may have a growth bucket. Now, of course, from a risk standpoint, all those buckets are put into one portfolio and we evaluate the portfolio risk as a whole. But if we can segment certain portions of your portfolio
Yeah.
towards risk mitigated strategies and risky strategies, it usually yields great results, as we've seen for hundreds of people in the past. Another thing is dynamic withdrawal rules, diversifying risk in early retirement years. And that kind of goes into exactly what I mentioned with the bucketed strategies. But it's important that, of course, we establish cash reserves, adequate cash reserves, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean parking your money in your bank account. It just means having a principal protected element of your portfolio.
What is that, like government-backed securities? or
Government-backed
something? Just
securities,
know that,
maybe
yeah.
municipal security or municipal bonds. But specifically, when I say cash reserves, though, I really just more so mean money markets.
Okay.
Maybe short-term treasuries.
So you'd like pull out maybe say a fourth of your retirement in those first couple of years just in case and like stress test it with a fourth of your money to make sure you'll be okay, just in case those down years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Kind of happen in a bad time.
And that's kind of where the bucketed strategies come down to be honest. Because like again, you might have one account that's got a risk of, and we've got other episodes on risk, so I won't go too much into it, but a risk of 30 or 25 that the principal is not necessarily going to fluctuate much. It's not going to be high growth, but it's going to take care of your assets in a downturn in the market. And then you may have a strategy that's a 65 risk. It's taking a little bit more juice into the market and trying to get that growth that is inherent with the market. So that's why we have that bucketed strategy, because ultimately we evaluate the entire portfolio, but if we could segment portions of that portfolio towards different goals, it's hugely beneficial for sure. Another one is just implementing guardrail strategies. And that's a large portion of that is analyzing that risk on a regular basis. Not just an annual thing, but making it a quarterly.
And knowing what risks are out there. Like I don't think a lot of people understand this, how to minimize that risk.
Sure. Yeah, no, and being knowledgeable. And the one thing that I certainly love doing, and I know all of our advisors here do, is just educating our clients. I think the more that we can educate them, the more empowered they are to live a successful retirement. And part of that is talking about this type of risk, because
The uncomfortable conversation.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I hope that helps, Cam. Remember, we're going to leave a link in the description if you want to talk to any of our certified financial planners and get some clarity on all this stuff. And remember, folks, the secret to wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep. Happy days, everybody.
This podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only and is not intended as personal financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please do your own research and consult a financial advisor as needed.